Welcome back to Hiking with Kathleen. In today's video, this is part one of a series of us bringing you along on an Alaskan cruise. We are so excited for this. We've been planning this for a year. And in fact, we are now in Seattle. We have just embarked on the cruise ship. We will be leaving here in a couple of hours and we are just getting acquainted with our room. We're going to show you what the room looks like. So in our trip to Alaska, we have planned several different excursions and you're coming along. So stay tuned. So Shannon and I are just sitting back and we are enjoying a drink. And we are in one of the lounges here on board the ship. And we're just reflecting on the fact that although we didn't really emphasize our time here in Seattle and we didn't do an overview or anything like that, it actually was a really wonderful experience. Everyone we met here was really courteous, really very helpful. And it's very gay friendly. So for the two of us, that was wonderful. We saw pride flags everywhere we looked, down main streets, in storefronts and things of that nature. So that was a really wonderful experience. So as I say, we're just sitting back here enjoying the view, and the ship is going to pull out, I guess, any minute now because it's supposed to leave at 3 o'clock and it's about 10 after 3 right now. So anyway, this has been we wished we'd had more time to explore Seattle, but really this was the place we flew to 2 days before our cruise was to leave. We didn't want to risk missing our cruise. So, but it's a really wonderful community here in Seattle, Washington. Sometimes observing the presence of fish-eating birds hovering over the water may provide clues to a whale's presence as they wait for fish to get stirred up by the whales. But don't get too distracted by the birds. I miss seeing this whale breach.
Oh my God. That came out of nowhere. Yeah.
You may wonder what makes humpback whales unique. Enthusiasts and researchers study their fins and tails for unique markings or notches. I'm just hiking up with the group now to Mendenhall Glacier. So this is the hike that it takes for us to walk up to the glacier. And much of this area in Juneau, Alaska is a rainforest. So it's very wet, but there's lots of breaks in the weather where it doesn't rain. So this is really pretty and very rich habitat.
Or that chunk of granite.
This is where the edge of the glacier was in 1916, and it has continued to recede every year. Well, Shannon and I are going to have a little chin wag with you. We're going to have a chance to bring you up to date with how our cruise has been going so far. So we got on the cruise on Saturday when we were in Seattle. Monday was the day at sea. Yesterday was our first day to be at a port, and that's where we both did, some sort of an excursion. Today is a day that we went through a Glacier Bay passage. It's a national park, and we just finished going through that. We were just sitting in an area where you can sit by the window with the other people and have access to food and beverages and that. So we did that, and it was just absolutely beautiful scenery. And then tomorrow we'll continue on into Wednesday. So this cruise for us is going to wrap up on Friday, because Friday is the only Canadian port, and that's in Victoria, BC. That's where we are going to disembark from the ship. It would normally bring us right back to Seattle on Saturday, but we're going to leave the ship a little bit earlier, because then we have some plans with some friends in Victoria. So as for the day that we spent at sea, I guess it wasn't really a memorable day for Shannon. How did that one day at sea work out for you?
It was a little rolly, and I am prone to motion sickness, and so I was horizontal most of the day, and I'm okay with that. It worked out.
That's typically how it can work out when we're on cruises and there's a line of fire where we are well out into the ocean. When you are hugging the shoreline, the water tends to be a lot calmer, and Shannon is more susceptible to motion sickness than I am. I don't get it. And so I just, ventured around and did my own thing for the day and checked in on Shannon from time to time and brought her food and tea and things of that nature. But anyway, that's okay, because now Monday is out of the way. And then Tuesday is when we were in the town of Juneau. So what this cruise ship chose to do as the route is it went to the farthest destination first. So it took almost 2 full days to get there. And so we started off in Juneau. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what your excursion was for the day?
I chose the Alpine off-road Segway tour, and we went up to the ski village, and we went all around these hills and through the rainforest. It was quite enjoyable. That was my first time on a Segway, and I guess you do it with your body weight leaning forward and backward, and so it was a little challenging for everyone at first, but after 10 minutes we were ready to roll, and we had a great time.
So, I mean, that's good. It was a new experience for you.
Yeah, it was. Even though it was in the pouring rain, we were all dressed for it, and it worked out.
And the reason it was in pouring rain is because that's just what happens in Juneau, Alaska. Juneau is in the temperate rainforest, and so oftentimes it rains a lot. And when Shannon and I were still at home planning how to pack for this trip, we saw that, I think it was maybe a 7-day forecast. We checked the 14-day forecast and thought, anything can happen. It might change within 7 days. It didn't. And it was going to have, it was forecasting 50 to 75 millimeters of rain on the day that we were in Juneau. That's a lot of rain. So it's okay. We came dressed for it. And as for my excursion, mine was when I was an excursion where I went whale watching. So I did that for a couple of hours, and we saw lots of humpback whales. So that was a really great experience. A lot of times when you see whales in the ocean, you see just a part of their body sticking out. They're very large animals. I guess they can weigh about 80,000 pounds. They can be 55 feet plus in length. So you don't get to see very much of them unless you happen to catch them at that magical time when they're breaching. I did not, but we did see it, but nobody had their camera in our group in order to see that. I had 11 people on this particular outing. It was where we went whale watching and went to Mendenhall Glacier. So there were only 11 people. It was a photography tour. So that way you had lots of opportunity to stop, take images, and it was nice because you have a small group to share with. And your group was small too.
Yeah, we only had 8 people in it,
Yeah.
which was actually a good size.
So you pay for it. I mean, you're paying a lot of money for these excursions, but you also have a really great experience because you're sort of given more one-on-one with the person who is coming along as your guide and your interpreter. And so anyway, we really enjoyed our experiences yesterday, and well, we met up at the end of the day because our experiences were both in the afternoon. Our ship didn't dock until, I don't know, 12:30 or something. So it pulled into the port in Juneau at 12:30 and was destined to leave at 10 p.m. I tell you, we were both wiped out. So by the time we met up for dinner, we didn't stay up very much later and went to bed fairly early. Yeah. And we're also dealing with a bit of a time zone difference. The time zone we're used to is Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Then when you go to the Pacific Coast, there's 3 hours, so they're 3 hours behind. And then by the time you get to Juneau, you're another hour behind. Well, that means also your next day starts a little earlier, so actually, I guess it starts later. So anyway, we're still adjusting. I guess that would be fair to say. Now that once we are leaving Juneau and we are heading back, we were just made aware that although we are supposed to be, we do have a port that we're going to today, which is going to be for 4 hours. Do you remember the name of the port?
Icy Strait.
Icy, as in snowy, so Icy Strait. We have 4 hours in that town, and we were just made aware by the ship's captain that our itinerary has been modified. And all we were really hoping is that Victoria was not going to be modified, because we have flights booked out of Victoria, we have hotels booked there. We were hoping that wasn't going to get changed, and it was not. But there is a low pressure system and a very rigorous storm system that's moving into the area. Something like 30-foot waves are what are expected in the pathway that we were supposed to take. Because after today, tomorrow we are supposed to wake up in Sitka. Disappointing to us, we had our favorite, I guess probably safe to say, one of our favorite outings. I think actually that wasn't the bear one that got canceled. No, for me it was one that was, it was for the Raptor Center and sea otters. Oh my God, we've been seeing sea otters outside the window of the ship. They swim, you know, well away from the shore, and the way you recognize them, you see them on their back, you see their head, you see their back feet, then you know right away that is a sea otter. So that outing has been canceled for me, but Shannon's also disappointed that she won't get to.
Yeah, I was signed up for a metal art class, so I was looking forward to that as well.
Making things out of metal. And then she would have been able to take that home on the plane or have it shipped back.
Since, well, the pilots decided,
the crew captain.
The crew captain, I guess, yes, that we're going to go in the inside passage instead of on the outside, which is faster, but we're more vulnerable to the weather on the outside.
And how do you feel about sticking to the inside passage, knowing how Monday felt?
Oh my gosh. I'm still a little nervous on this system coming through. 30-foot waves.
So this is what happens when you're on a cruise. Things can get changed. Things are done for your safety, right? They want to make sure that they're keeping the participants and the crew as safe as possible. So that's okay. We will adjust. It just means we have one less port to go to. But as the captain said, that means we're going to be able to spend more time in our second last destination, which is Ketchikan. And we both have excursions signed up for then. And Victoria, we weren't supposed to even pull in until about 8:30 or so at night. Now we're going to pull in at 4 in the afternoon. So, I mean, for us, that's great, because that's where we're going to be spending the next 3 nights. So anyway, we just wanted to give you a bit of an overview because we haven't been too chatty. Shannon and I have been on different excursions, so I haven't been bringing you folks up to date. So that's where things sit right now, and we'll check in with you again. So just one more thing, because there's always just one more thing, and that is what we did earlier today. When we arrived in Glacier Bay National Park, we had some park rangers that came on the ship, and they actually just left probably about a half an hour ago. There's the boat came to the ship, they climbed up a ladder, and then they climbed down, and so we sort of caught a glimpse of them as they were heading away, and they were all waving at us as we were all sitting around window seats. What they did is they provided an interpretive talk about how Glacial Bay National Park came to be. And they were also pointing out animal sightings that were visible as we were, out on the deck and things like that. For most of it, it was all out raining. I was outside. Well, it was all out raining. I was on one of the outside areas because I didn't want anything to obstruct my view of an animal. But I had my camera all covered up, and that's where I had a chance to see some harbor seals that had taken refuge on a large chunk of ice. Had a chance to see my first sea otter. So they were swimming around. And once you kind of get an idea of what these animals look like, oh my gosh, it's like they're everywhere, because then you've got that search image where you're looking for a head and then you see the feet. And anyway, they appeared pretty well everywhere. But so I had a chance to see those things and, film some other things that birds that I saw along the way. But that's what I spent probably a good, 3 or so hours doing this morning. And you could hear them as they're spotting animals through the loudspeaker out on the deck and in those common areas. So that was really cool. And they also gave a couple of presentations. One was on humpback whales to give us a little bit more background about them. So, and then as for what you were doing earlier today?
I was doing a polar bear plunge, and then I spent the rest of the day looking for you.
Look who I found. I came out of the pool. Yeah. And how did that polar bear plunge come about?
I went into the ship's pool, and it was very cold.
Really cold. It was very cold. Okay, so just know that at this time of year, it was not.
I was in there for half an hour.
And it was the indoor pool.
Yes, it was the indoor pool, but I was wondering why nobody is swimming.
What inspired you to go swimming?
I went into a thermal spa, and it was too hot.
Yeah, you were very hot, so you needed a way to cool down. That's so. Okay, so those are the things that we ended up doing. So there were a couple of times that, Shannon finally found me. I didn't know she was looking for me, but there's really very little way for us to communicate because there's no Wi-Fi on a ship unless you pay one arm and one leg in order to get that service. But anyway, she found me, and so then we were able to spend a little bit of time together out on one of the decks, and then we ended up, of course, catching up for lunch. So that's the kind of thing that we did this morning. So it was really neat. It was neat having interpreters on board that could help to point out various things. Mm-hmm. So today the cruise ship has been traveling through Glacier National Park, and we have some rangers that are on board, and they're doing some interpretation of the glaciers, wildlife that could be found in this community or in this habitat. So it's been a really great experience. I've been out here trying to search for wildlife, and I have seen otters in the water. I just haven't had a chance to get any good footage of them. One of the rangers pointed out some mountain goats when we first started. So I haven't been able to see that, but I set myself up out here so that I would have an unobstructed view of the glaciers as we were motoring by, and the topography is just beautiful. So anyway, that's what's going on today, and it's been a mix of rain and wind today. But that's what you come to expect in this climate and in this habitat. So I'm out on the third deck right now. And it's an area that's covered, so if it starts raining again, that's okay. I just had a chance to film some harbor seals. So they were taking refuge on a large chunk of ice, and the ship is pulling in closer and closer to this glacier. I don't know that I'll be able to capture it at the right moment in time, but you can hear loud cracks because this glacier is calving, which means it's breaking off chunks of ice. It moves at the rate of something like 5 feet a day. I'll correct that if I need to, but I think that's what I recall them saying. So it's a pretty fascinating process. I don't know that it should be disintegrating at that rate, but things are melting even here in Alaska. So Shannon and I are at the port called Icy Strait, and what we've done is we were riding up on a free gondola that brings you to some other things you can enjoy, including this nature walk that we're on. So that one we'll be using to return, but it brings you up to a restaurant, to a museum, and we're just heading towards the Cookhouse restaurant right now. Okay, so we've had a really nice time here in Icy Straits, Alaska. And the people here are very hospitable. We went in the different tourist stops, made a couple of purchases, and so that's a neat thing. So now we're just heading back to the tourist ship. We already ate dinner on the ship itself, so we're just having a look around and looking at the beauty. we met Amy and Sabrina from the Seattle area on our first night on the cruise ship and became fast friends with them. Our connection really enhanced our experience. So Shannon and I are just enjoying a little bit of quiet time. We are here in one of the bars. It's called the Ocean Lounge. This is where we were for happy hour yesterday. But we're here this morning. It's one of the few places where Shannon can get soda and cranberry because it's a bar type drink without the alcohol. So anyway, we are here. There's really nobody else set up. They're just setting up at the bar, so it's a little clanky. But I'll tell you, this is the reason we like to sit in these little nooks that are found around the cruise ship. So that's what our view is, and it gives us a chance to just sort of sit back, enjoy the view. We were in our room for a good few hours, but we got another hour added to our timeline today because we've changed time zones. So when we realize that, we still have about 3 hours to go before we get to today's port, which is Ketchikan. And then we will each have excursions to experience throughout the afternoon and maybe get a little bit of a Wi-Fi fix so that we can go into the port. And then we will just be having some dinner back here on board. So anyway, this is giving you a bit of an idea of what it's like on a cruise ship where you get treated to 3 beautiful meals a day and other snacks. Entertainment, there's all kinds of entertainment. We just haven't got the stamina for that to stay up late. Yeah, we tend to go to bed a little on the early side, and I think it's because we also struggle a little bit with the time zone changes. So, but this is just nonstop beauty. So when we look out the windows, it's nonstop beauty, the occasional wildlife sighting, and we're just fixated on looking out the window. So anyway, that's our update for this morning, which is September 25th. So for people who like exercise while you're away on holidays, this is the 3rd level. This deck goes all the way around. I don't know how many kilometers or miles it translates into, but this is how a lot of people are seen walking by. And while you're doing your exercise, there's also a weight training room and there's a swimming pool. But while you're doing your exercise, this is what you get to see. Yeah, so Shannon and I were just looking out at this view. It's too cold for her. And so I just wanted to come out and just show you what it's like. I mean, today's a beautiful day. I hope this stays. I have my rain gear when I'm ready for my excursion to go look for bears. So mine in Ketchikan is a bear encounter by land and sea. Shannon is going to be going on a mountain bike ride. So she is going to be going through the forest. That is what our excursions are today, and we're really excited about that. So this is a beautiful day. I hope this translates into beautiful weather for our excursions. I should mention, that boat that you see up there with the number 11 on it, those serve 2 purposes that I'm aware of. One is they are tenders. They get you into a shore if the cruise ship does not, if the cruise ship is too large for the shore, but those are also the rescue boats. So as one of the safety measures when you first come on board, what you are to learn is the area you go to, you report to, if you need to evacuate the ship. So we know our station is number 6, so it's on the other side of the ship. It tells you here by number what the assembly station is. Okay, I'm gonna head inside and I'm gonna see if there is someplace I can get a latte, maybe a latte with a view. Well, this is excursion day in Ketchikan, and it turns out that I was signed up for the bear encounter by land and sea. And so earlier today, when we arrived at the port at about 12:15, got on board the bus that brought us to the boat that was going to take us out to an area where black bears are known to feast on the salmon, because this is the sort of the end of the salmon run, which is where salmon return from the ocean to the river where they were hatched, and this is where they spawn. So as we were riding along in the boat on our way out to that spot, there was lots of communication going on between our guide and the captain of the boat, and lots of text messages that were going back and forth. And then the announcement came that they were turning around. And that's because they just had to call it. They canceled the trip because the water was getting rough and progressively got more and more rough as we got farther away from the port of entry where the boat left. So Mother Nature rules, and you never argue with Mother Nature. So as our cruise ship has changed course and skipped the Sitka port that we were supposed to be at today, there are things that have to be adjusted according to the weather. So I was kind of prepared for the fact that we'd be in the location we needed to be in, and the bears may not be there. That's their prerogative. But in this case, it wasn't that. It's just that the weather prevented us. It looked like beautiful sunny skies, but the water kept getting more and more choppy. So it was deemed to be unsafe. And so anyway, I guess we're expecting to get a refund for that trip. And it was disappointing. But the consolation prize is I hung out in town. Shannon would not expect me back at this time anyway, because I came back about 2 hours early. So I don't know where she is. But anyway, I went and did a little bit of shopping, found a place that had Wi-Fi. Oh my God, you get so starved for it. When you're on board and they have satellite available, but it costs a lot of money in order to access it, and it's very slow and unreliable. So anyway, I was able to respond to various emails that had built up over the last few days and bought myself a couple of just souvenir t-shirts. So anyway, that is how the bear encounter turned out today. But I met some great people along the way, and now I'm going to just wander the ship, wander the corridors, and maybe find Shannon, because this is, of course, dinner time. It's a little after 5 p.m. We're at this port until 6:30, so I've had about an hour and a half maybe to wander around here. So anyway, that's how today wrapped up, but we'll be at sea all of tomorrow, and that's okay. So that's the update. So our excursion day has wrapped up. Shannon just got back from her mountain biking in the woods event.
Yep.
And you sat at a bonfire with the people that were on the excursion with you. And I'd already told you how mine wrapped up. So anyway, we're just going to go and have some dinner together, but we are reveling in the beauty, you know, and this is the last bit of daylight today, so we wanted to be able to share that with you. What's today?
Today is my birthday.
And what does that make you?
1 year older. I feel older today, but maybe not tomorrow. But today I do.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm in 30-foot seas. And I'm going to try and have a birthday lunch. I don't know if that's going to work, but we're going to try.
After having some lunch, we got a tea to enjoy in a comfortable nook in the lounge.
We got lots of waves, lots of rough water.
Then in mid-afternoon, we attended a high tea event in the dining room. Fancy hats and fascinators were not required, thankfully. We didn't pack them on this trip. We tasted everything on the dessert and sandwich tiered tray. Then, back to the lounge we went to meet our friends Amy and Sabrina to raise a glass to Shannon. The celebration overflowed and everyone else at happy hour sang happy birthday. Then we dined at a special restaurant that served up steak and lobster for this special occasion. And oh yes, they sang for her there too. Upon returning to our room at the end of the night, Shannon was just tickled to find what was left behind by the service crew from Holland America and our travel company, Olivia. This was Shannon's best birthday yet. So what I've done is, after Shannon and I had some lunch, she has now gone off to an art class, and we're getting off in a few short hours. So I'm out here on the third deck, which is where I can possibly see wildlife as it's swimming by or flying by. So I had a chance to run into an onboard naturalist named Ross, who's been a great help at providing his expertise and spotting opportunities from the deck. And so he mentioned that there were some porpoises that swam by, and I filmed something that I will look up and see if maybe that was what I saw, because it was after the moment in time when he saw them. But this is where it's getting really exciting, because we're not too far from Victoria, and now I expect I'll see more and more things appear in the water. So I'll keep you updated on that. So we are just about ready to disembark. We've got everything all packed up, and so we're going to get off a little bit ahead of everybody else that's just coming to visit this port. Now what we'll do is we'll give you our reflections and views on what we thought of our Alaskan cruise experience. And so I'll start this off. It was a great experience. We're really glad that we went on this Alaskan cruise. It allowed us to get to an area of North America that isn't easily accessible by road. You have to access some of it by either boat or by plane. So that was really neat. Being able to get into some of those passages and seeing the glaciers and things of that nature, that was, breathtaking to have that scenery available to us. There was a fair bit of rain, and I guess that's the thing, is we checked the weather before we embarked on this trip, so we knew what kind of clothing to bring. And I think that worked in our favor, so that we had all of our rain gear. So I think it just leaves us wanting more. I think we'll probably want to come back, not necessarily by cruise, but to explore this area in another way sometime in the future, because it feels like there's still a lot to, there's a lot of stones to turn over and to find other things that would lead us to wildlife sightings. So what about you, Shannon? What was your perception?
I have to agree with you. I think having a land tour, we would see a lot more. And I would like to maybe get into the culture more, the indigenous culture. And that, we just didn't have those opportunities this time. But yeah, I'm looking forward to one day coming back and doing that.
So thank you so much for joining us on this trip on the Alaskan cruise. We are now soon going to be embarking on a tour around Victoria, British Columbia. So we want you to stay tuned and join us next week for that. We'll see you then.
Hi John, it's Rachel here from Scotland. I'm from Kilmarnock and we are sending greetings through Kathleen.
And hi John, I'm Georgia. I'm originally from Kirkcudbright in the very south of Scotland, but we currently live in Dumfries, and greetings from Kathleen.
John, that one's for you.